everyone, and welcome once again to I've Been Playing. I promise I am recording and going to record other stuff, but these are the quickest to edit. But anyway, today we are talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Unsurprisingly, this is the most recent Assassin's Creed game. I think it just came out last month. Again, timeline is all skewed, I'm getting to stuff late, but it's relatively recent anyway. It's set in Japan, finally. This is something that Assassin's Creed fans have been asking for forever, and then Ghost of Tsushima came out, and that was essentially Assassin's Creed in Japan, but now we have an actual Assassin's Creed in Japan. And it has two protagonists, once again, although unlike previous Assassin's Creeds, at least to my knowledge, you can swap between them at any time. I guess you could do that with Syndicate, but you can swap between them at any time. And it seems like, thankfully, unlike Syndicate, which I haven't played but I have heard about, they stay the same level. From what I can tell, from what I've played so far, it seems like once I switched back to the other protagonist, they had leveled up at the same rate, even though I'd been using a different protagonist. And in terms of protagonists, you have Naoe, who's the sneakier, stealthier, shinobi-adjacent, more traditional assassin kind of stealth gameplay. And then you have Yasuke, who is a samurai and is brute force. And in terms of this, it's really nice. The thing is, I always go in sneaky and then someone sees me no matter what I do. I just suck, apparently. But I always get into fights anyway, so far I've been playing as Naoe. Partly because I've only played the first bit of the story and it kind of focuses on her at first. But also because I want to sneak in and be unseen. But every time, no matter what I do, no matter how I hide, no matter how slow I am, someone sees me and I get in a big fight. So I'm playing on the lowest difficulty setting because I don't care. I don't have time to make it more difficult than it needs to be, so I'm not having problems, but I would like to be sneakier. But I have finally gotten to the point where I can switch to Yasuke, and he is much easier to just go in and kill people if you need to. So there are certain little side missions you can pick up that are kind of like, I think they're world rumors or something. They're not part of the main thing, they're not even really side missions, but sometimes you have to go destroy something or go assassinate someone. And it's just a small camp, and because of the way the camp's set up, it's actually easier, at least for me, to do it as Yasuke, because I get seen really easily because there's no cover. So it's kind of nice. It's not just like you play as one or the other and they play the same, they're actually different, which is kind of nice. Also, I think it's really interesting that they picked Yasuke. First of all, it pissed a lot of people off because they have one singular collective brain cell and have never read anything or think that people other than themselves exist. But I read a book about Yasuke probably 7 or 8 years ago. Not the best written thing I've ever read, but it was interesting information, so he was a real historical figure. How much of it is embellished and kind of mythologized at this point, who knows? But it is based in fact and history. Read a book. Anyway, with that out of the way, in terms of the game itself, like I say, it's very interesting to have two different playstyles, two different characters. I don't really know. I've kind of just gotten to the point where they started working together, and to explain anything about how they start working together is a bit of a spoiler, so I'm not gonna bother, but they do end up joining up forces eventually. And I feel like this particular entry in the series, speaking of, took a lot of influence from Ghost of Tsushima, which in turn took a lot of inspiration from Assassin's Creed, so they've kind of helped themselves along there. But I can definitely see where specific things they may have drawn more from that than the previous Assassin's Creed games. A little bit, obviously it still has the DNA, appropriately enough, of an Assassin's Creed game, because what would be the point if it didn't? But I do think it drew some inspiration from there. Some of the side activities in particular, there's one that's, it's not haiku writing, but it's meditation, very similar. There's one where you can practice kata, very similar to like the bamboo strike kind of thing. And it's not that it's just pulling from another game or anything, like it thematically makes sense, but you can also kind of tell that they may have gotten the idea from there. It also feels like, to me, there are a lot more cutscenes so far in this one than I remember there being in at least more recent Assassin's Creeds. I think I talked about Odyssey on here before, and I don't even think I finished that one. I think I got at least halfway through at least, but I don't think I finished it. I don't remember the ending if I did. And like, I played through all of Origins. I enjoyed Origins well enough. I think it did enough to shake up the formula at the time, but it wasn't so massive that it was intimidating. And then I played Valhalla I think at the end of last year I tried to. I played 3 hours and I was done. That was enough. It was already overwhelming and I hadn't even gotten out into the bigger world map yet, really. I was just like, you know what? I don't want this. Which is disappointing because the Vikings concept and whole idea is interesting. But I was so overwhelmed and annoyed by the time I got out of the first area, though. I was like, I do not want to play this. And Mirage I haven't touched, just because I keep forgetting it came out. But as someone who has kind of fallen off Assassin's Creed recently, it's pulling me back in, I think, and it may be partly the setting because it is a setting that I'm interested in. It also feels more manageable. It's still a fairly sizable map, but it's not nearly as scarily big as the more recent ones have been, specifically, again, Valhalla. The gameplay, again, feels a bit different from how I remember it, not like massively, but I'm remembering why I liked the earlier ones, although the movement still pisses me off because you'll be running and whoever you're playing— Yasuke doesn't really climb very well, so generally Naoe is the one who will be parkouring and climbing at least effectively. But it still does that thing where sometimes I want to do something and it just won't do it. Like there was one time I went out to a ship to get a viewpoint and I tried to leap off into the water and I thought I was looking at the water and I thought it was obvious that I wanted to leap into the water and she just jumped onto the deck and died. And then the next time I was trying to get down to a lower part of the mast and she jumped in the water. I was looking at the mast. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This is not where my eyes are looking. Like, the camera is focused here. Why are you jumping over there? So there's some of that. There's some of, like, climbing where I don't want to, or there was one time where she just hopped back and forth across walls when I was trying to drop into the water, even though I was holding the drop button. So the movement still feels annoying to me sometimes, but in general, you know, it's fine. More smooth than it used to be, but still slightly annoying at times. Also, this had kind of a turbulent life cycle in development, let's say, but it seems to be okay. There are some still occasional glitches, but it's not too bad, and it's not really anything that's completely ruined immersion or anything. There's some stuff clipping through other stuff, but that barely bothers me. I notice it, but it doesn't bother me. There's a couple of times where the NPC AI just does weird things. Somebody got stuck on a rock once and was just walking in place. There's little stuff like that. Stuff that's kind of funny. It's not game-breaking or even necessarily immersion-breaking, really. A little bit. But, like, it's not bad. And I haven't encountered anything horrendously terrible yet, which is nice, because Ubisoft is having some problems, and I'm hoping that this helps. And also, it feels good to play, despite the fact that it didn't have the best lead-up to release. But what does at this point? Two things that I have noticed. The opening bit, especially with Naoe, it felt really rushed. You do get backstory eventually, so it wasn't really rushed. It was just setting up our character at the start of the game, but it just kind of plopped you into the cutscenes, and I didn't really feel like I knew what the hell was going on. And there are also some times where it feels like it's weirdly translated, and I don't know— first of all, I don't know which Ubisoft studio worked on this, because there are several, so I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know if they wrote it in Japanese first and then translated it, or if it just sounds weird sometimes. There have been some lines that just don't sound like how people would speak, and it does kind of sound like how it would if you directly translated Japanese to some extent, but some of it is just kind of weird, so I have noticed that. I don't know that it's that big a deal, just it feels a little weird, you know? And there have also been a couple of times where the music just feels weird. It doesn't seem to fit. Like there's one scene, it wasn't like rock music, but it was just not the music I would have expected to be in this game at all, let alone the scene it was over. It feels weird. Some of the music choices feel a little bit strange, and I don't know why they couldn't just have more background atmospheric stuff. Like, it's so loud and so seemingly out of place that it's noticeable, and like, you want to notice the music, but it has to make sense, and this just didn't for me. It seemed so strange a choice. There have been a couple of times I've noticed that. I'm like, I don't really understand why this is here, because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't really blend with the scene the way you'd want it to. It sticks out, and if it sticks out, it's not a good musical choice. And the last thing, they're still trying to make the overall modern day Animus nonsense a thing, and I don't care. I haven't cared since Desmond left. It hasn't really mattered since Desmond left. I know they're trying to build some modern day mystery. I never pay attention to that part. I don't care. I don't personally know anybody else who cares. I'm sure there are people who care, but why? Like, that's not why I'm playing these games. I know they probably keep it in partly because they need to have some reason to have the Assassin's Creed name on it, but I don't care. I don't need a reason for them to be connected other than the name. Like, it's the gameplay. It's not the Animus bullshit. It's the gameplay. It's the going into history and stabbing people with wrist blades. I don't care about your stupid sci-fi modern day nonsense. I'd play a different game if I wanted that. But overall, I'm really enjoying myself. I definitely think that if they continue more kind of in this direction, and again, I don't know anything about Mirage, I haven't played it yet. I know it's smaller as well, and kind of more, perhaps more like the earlier games than even this one is, I don't know. But I do think they're finally getting the idea that people don't necessarily want 70-hour whatever Valhalla was. I can't explain to you how much Valhalla drained my soul of wanting to play it within the first hour. It was so much. It may have been because I know how big it is or knew how big it was going into it, but it felt so soul draining. And this one just feels more fun, more interesting. I'm immediately more connected to the characters because they actually have cutscenes and backstory, and there's a plot that I actually care about. And it's not that the others don't have cutscenes or character, but I feel like they haven't been super well developed in a while. So it's kind of nice. I'm enjoying myself, and you know, I've gotten through Act 1. I don't know how long it is, but so far I'm enjoying myself. So hopefully that continues. But so far, that's what I've thought of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Have you played this particular installment or any of the other ones? What do you think? Do you care about the modern day plot? Because I've literally heard maybe one person ever say they care at this point. But hi if you're here. But yeah, what do you think? Are you gonna play it? Are you waiting? That kind of thing. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.